What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Untamed Outdoorsmen. And today we are back in the garage once again doing another review video on my BooneDox T-Bone bed extender. So this is going to be a 2-year buyer's review. I have used this thing extensively throughout 2 years, probably 100 total fishing trips with this thing across 2 years. And we're going to probably use it a little bit after this review. But we are in the process of getting a trailer. That trailer is supposed to arrive pretty soon here at the time we're recording this. So the uses on this bed extender are going to be a lot less when that trailer comes in. So I figured this is going to be a perfect time to do a 2-year buyer's review on this after 2 years of hard, extensive use while it's still fresh in my brain. So this thing is definitely on the pricier side when it comes to bed extenders, but there is a lot of unique features with this and a lot of unique characteristics that I feel if you are the kind of angler that can justify equipment like this, I do believe it is worthwhile to purchase and consider. And this thing I've been thrilled with the last 2 years. So we're going to dive into the pros and cons here, but overall there's a lot of good here. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to go through the pros and the cons. We're going to kind of dive deep into each pro, and we have a couple of cons to talk about as well. We're just going to dive right into it. We're not going to waste any time here at all. Okay, so we're going to start with the pros first. I do really like the pros of this. First off is the weight. So the weight is probably one of the biggest reasons that this is worthwhile over your traditional bed extenders. A lot of the traditional bed extenders are made of steel, or they're made of much heavier metal. This one here though is aircraft grade aluminum, so it is at least half the weight of your traditional steel bed extenders. I would almost say a third of the weight. It is extremely light. I think I would probably say around 15, 20 pounds, probably closer to 20 pounds, but still extremely light. I mean, I can pick this thing up with no strain whatsoever. You know, it's definitely not an endeavor to pick it up like it was on the other steel ones. So this thing, I mean, for the weight alone, it's totally worth it. I mean, 300-pound weight capacity on this, so it'll fit all of your kayaks. If you have a kayak that's over 300 pounds, you've definitely got some problems that you got to sort out. A significant weight reduction compared to a steel bed extender. I love it for that. And then the second pro that we have is the material that they use. So I already mentioned that it's made of aircraft grade aluminum, so it will be significantly lighter. But another thing that aircraft grade aluminum does extremely well compared to steel is corrosion. Aluminum is capable of corroding after many, many years, but compared to a steel bed extender, there is zero sign of any sort of rust or anything like that, oxidation of any kind. This thing, you know, rust-wise, still looks exactly like it did day one when I bought it. No sign of any corrosion or anything like that. Even when you look, you know, inside of the extender, there is no corrosion in there. There's just paint and solid silver metal. You're never going to be battling corrosion on this guy. This is a nice, thick aircraft-grade aluminum material, so it's going to look brand new from a corrosion standpoint, probably for the lifetime of your uses. And for that, I think it's incredible. There's zero risk of any long-term corrosion issues with this guy. It's going to look brand new for probably the lifetime that you own it from a corrosion standpoint. All right, so my next pro is protection. And that's twofold. So kayak protection and the protection for the bed extender itself. So we'll start with the kayak protection. And the kayak protection, the way that this is designed, there is no sharp angles that the kayak is in contact with. As you can see right down here, it's just a circular bar. There is no sharp edges here. There's no sharp points. There's no sharp angles on the top of this extender whatsoever. So there is no risk of any chafing or anything going on your kayak hull. The previous bed extender that I had was a Malone Axis truck bed extender, and it did the job, but with those sort of forks that slide in and out of the bed extender, it made a chafe point where those metals slid in and out, and there was a sharp edge there, and it actually started to chafe my old kayak and take little shavings off every time that I would use it. And if I let that sit for too long, it would have created eventually a leak point or a hole in the kayak. So that's definitely something to consider when it comes to other bed extenders. And with this one, like I said, it is completely circular. There is no sharp edges on this bed extender whatsoever that the kayak will come in contact with. And for that reason, it is very safe for your kayak to rest on this bed extender. Another nice thing that I definitely recommend are these BooneDox pads. These are specific BooneDox T-Bone pads. They're not like weightlifting pads. They're like 25 bucks a piece. So 50 bucks total for both of these pads. However, when I bought it a little over 2 years ago, I did use a coupon code that I found online that basically gave me these pads for free because of the percentage of the coupon code that I got off. I don't remember what the code was, but I do remember that I found it pretty easily, and I think I found it on Instagram. If you haven't followed us on Instagram, definitely do so below. But I managed to find a coupon code on Instagram. I don't remember what it was, but I found it, so it must be pretty easy to find. That basically gave me these pads for free. So I definitely recommend these pads. They just add more cushion to your kayak as well as roll. So you can actually use these to roll your kayak onto the bed, which is nice. I definitely like that a lot. So yeah, definitely really nice. And then in terms of the bed extender itself, how the bed extender protects itself, with this being a curved design down here, this makes it so you are much less likely to come in contact with things on the ground, depending on your ground clearance. So things like speed bumps, things like really difficult terrain, with this being angled up like that, you are less likely to hit things on the ground. With those traditional bed extenders like the Harbor Freight ones, it's just a straight line that comes up. It's just a giant L. With the corner of that L, sometimes depending on the ground situation, you may scrape the bottom of the bed extender because that point in the L comes really close to the ground depending on the ground surface and the elevation. So definitely something to consider there, but with this bed extender, that's a non-issue. So I definitely think that's an underrated feature of this bed extender. So the next one is definitely one that I like as well, and that is tie-down options. So one thing that I love to do with this bed extender is this bed extender allows for 3 points of contact for your kayak in the bed. So obviously I have one cam strap going through the front of the bow. I have one cam strap in the middle of the kayak, and I have one cam strap wrapped through the bed extender. So I can't do that on many other bed extenders, at least not very well. But with this one, in the design of this bed extender, with it being a very long contact point for the kayak to rest on, this is pretty much the whole length of my tailgate. It allows me to put a strap through the bed extender on both sides and go over the kayak. So that's really nice to have 3 points of contact there. So that kayak stays nice and secure in the truck, and I think that's awesome. The kayak never moves while it's on the bed. I think that's great. One thing to keep in mind too, these little ears here are not designed to be tie-down contact points. They make that very clear in their manuals. These are not designed to be contact points for tie-downs. I know it's very tempting because the little holes there, but that is not their designed use case. I think this is just designed so the kayak doesn't slide right off your bed extender. These are just keepers. They're not contact points, so keep that in mind. But overall, definitely nice to have a third comfortable support for your kayak. You know, the key is kayak protection, and I think this does that really well. And the final pro that I have is the height adjustments you can make with this bed extender. So this bed extender is designed to fit a variety of situations and a variety of different truck beds. So definitely a nice feature there. Multiple contact points here to adjust to a variety of different truck beds. So, you know, I know a lot of truck beds sit pretty low between the hitch and the tailgate. It's a pretty small distance. With my Chevy Silverado, it's a much higher distance, but this one manages to pull that off, and it does work. It's nice and even. The bed extender is not having to raise up to accommodate the tailgate. It all just fits really smoothly and fits really well. So I'm definitely happy with that. Okay, so now we are going to move on to the cons, and these are a few cons that I managed to come up with. These are not like things that I think about every time I use it. Definitely a little bit more minor cons for sure, but I feel like I had to bring them up. So let's get started. The first con that I have is chips on the coating. So this is definitely a little bit more of a minor one. I believe this is a powder coated material here. So it is a little bit susceptible to rock chips. I'm finding that out a little bit quickly. It's gonna be hard to get it on the camera, but if you really look deep into the extender, you'll find all kinds of little like rock chips that expose the bare aluminum. Again, it's not a corrosion concern, it's just more of an aesthetic concern. So it's not a huge deal, but it is something to be a little bit mindful of. Like I do see about 4 or 5 like pretty good sized little chips on the coating. So keep that in mind. They're not corrosion concerns with it being aluminum. It's not going to create any corrosion possibilities there. So don't worry about that. But you will see some aesthetically unpleasing rock chips throughout the extender as you use it throughout the years. So it is to be expected. It's not out of the ordinary, but keep that in mind. Another place where the coating tends to wash off is contact areas where it's metal to metal. So right down here, I'm not sure if you guys can see that, but right down here, that is all bare coating. So there's almost no powder coat left around that area. And another spot, and this is going to come with the territory. It's not abnormal, but there is quite a bit of lost coating around the hitch where the truck meets this bed extender. With there being a lot of load-bearing surface there, it is natural. It is sort of par for the course, but absolutely keep that in mind. You are going to see some areas that no longer have the coating on it. It is going to happen, so definitely keep that in mind, but definitely see it around where the truck meets the extender and where the two pieces connect up here. That's where you see it the most, and a couple rock chips throughout, but definitely not a corrosion concern, just an aesthetic concern. So number 2 is going to be the sticker quality. So there are a few stickers on this bed extender, and this is like a first world problem sort of con, so keep that in mind. But one of my little like nitpicks here is the fact that this is just a clear sticker. My initial thought were that these stickers here, you notice how it's just the text, there's no like big sticker on it, it's just the text. I thought it would be one of those like transfer stickers that you work into the plastic, then you take it off and it's just the lettering, there's no clear plastic background. I thought it was going to be one of those stickers, but it's actually one of these like Tackle Warehouse stickers where it's just like that big plastic sheet with no like transfer on it. It's just like one big plastic background, clear plastic. Definitely a small con, but I definitely notice it, and it would be cool if they made it like that transfer style sticker. I just think it might look a little bit better. But definitely a very small con. Not really anything worth heavily considering into your purchase, just something small that I noticed that, you know, I think could be a little bit cooler. And there is a sticker up near the top here, but this is probably going to get demolished because there's always going to be a kayak moving in and out of it. So, you know, keep in mind, this sticker is probably going to be a goner pretty quickly. But a little small one that I noticed. All right, and then the last one here is probably the biggest one that I can think of, and that is going to be the price. So when I bought this bed extender, this thing was about $300. This is quite a bit more expensive than the other traditional steel bed extenders on the market, but I do feel like, yes, the sticker shock is there, but this is a buy once, cry once sort of situation, buy once, cry once sort of extender. You're probably never going to have to buy another one unless it gets in an accident. You know, this thing is designed for life, and I firmly believe that after about 2 years of use. I know it's not, you know, a super, super long time, but, you know, after 2 years of use and this thing is still holding up extremely well, almost brand new, you know, I have no doubt that this thing would last 15, 20, 30 years. There's no doubt about that in my mind. So, yes, there is the sticker shock. Like I said, it does retail for about $300, but I do believe it's going to come with the territory and is sort of par for the course for this type of quality. But that's sort of my opinion on that. Okay, so now that we went through the pros and the cons, I do want to talk briefly about my overall thoughts and if I recommend it. So, do I recommend this bed extender? Absolutely, yes, I do. I think that, in my opinion, based on all of the pros that we talked about of this bed extender on this video, I think that this is one of, if not the single best bed extender that money can buy. You know, there are so many good things to talk about with this bed extender, and, you know, this thing is absolutely designed for longevity. Like I said, I have no doubt that this could last 30 years of consistent use. You know, the quality of this thing, in my opinion, is leaps and bounds over your other average bed extenders like the Malone one, like the Harbor Freight one. Those are good in their own way, but in my opinion, if you're looking for the best of the best, this is the one to get, in my opinion. I will say that, you know, this doesn't always make a ton of sense for everybody. So if you're looking at this and you think you don't need it for your use case, I completely understand. This type of extender and this sort of purchase does not fit everybody's situation. So, you know, with that being said, while I do think that this one is the best, I do think that there are really great bed extenders out there that give you very good value without having to spend the $300 plus to buy this one. So while yes, this one is the best, I do believe that there are other great options out there that are really great value for money, but they're not going to be as good as this one. You know, in my opinion, you know, it doesn't get any better than this. There's no real better option out there, and I highly, highly recommend this to anybody that can justify this sort of purchase and this sort of investment into their fishing situations. So yeah, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Definitely a smaller one, but definitely one that I wanted to make before we get our trailer, which is actually coming sooner rather than later. You guys may see a few videos as we wait for our trailer. However, once that trailer comes here, I fully expect this to get used significantly less, maybe a few times throughout the season, depending on the situation, but significantly less once we get that trailer. So yeah, thank you guys so much. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, definitely leave them down below, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.